Yo, what's up legends? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Feels like it's been a long time since I've done a video. Today we're going to go into my brand new track, On My Mind, Techno On My Mind. This one has been requested for almost a year, maybe a little bit more than a year. Thing is, I made this track in August 2020. So it's a bit over a year old. It was going to be released on a label, then it was going to be released on another label, and then I decided to release it on December 31st on my label, RAVE Recordings, because I wanted to give you guys the track that you've been asking for the most. Yes, Music Never Dies will drop next year. Wasn't going to release it, but I know how much you guys like that as well, so I'm going to drop it for you legends. So, if you don't know what the track is, this is Techno On My Mind.
I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno on my mind. I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno on my mind. I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno.
Before we jump into the project and how I made this track, the brand new sample pack for my Patreon squad is out now, and it is glorious. Next will be old school, January will be old school, and then I think February will do On My Mind, so you can get all these 6 samples. And thank you so much to the legends still supporting me over there. We will jump into this track after I've explained a little bit how it came about. One of my favourite tracks back in the day was Blow My Whistle by DJ Alligator. Go and check that out if you haven't heard it already. This is where I got the influence for the bass line. So this, I found a sample which is very similar to what DJ Alligator used in that track. Blow my whistle, bitch. That's the song that I basically got that influence from. I didn't want to do the same thing because that would just be a straight up copyright. But what I like to do with my sound nowadays is take heavy influence from the old school sounds, but also bring it up to date with big room and stuff like that to make something fresh and new. And that's where I went for this vocal on top. Now that made it sound a bit nostalgic, but also quite current. And I think it's probably one of the best drops I've ever done, and look how simple it is. The project's so bare because the vocal really carries this. So let's look at the vocal first. So this is the vocal. Let me see if I can play it in full. Yeah, let's listen to the vocal in full. I'm just going to make it unique. Stick it on its own mixer track so it's not processed or anything, and let's listen to what the sample sounds like.
I got that techno on my mind and I can't stop. I got that techno on my mind and I can't stop. I got that techno on my mind and I can't stop.
And I turned into this.
I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno on my, I got that techno.
I think the chops are perfectly done. It provides a rhythm, which is such a catchy, simple rhythm. And as you can see, there's lots of gaps in this melody, which is really, really crucial for this offbeat bass. Like, this bass works so well with this. It really shines through because you have lots of gaps with the melody. So first off, I found that vocal, chopped it up. Now the way I chopped it, I literally just took the cutting tool and just chopped it where I wanted it. Found the catchy melody. I always recommend you do this. Don't take a one from a sample pack and just stick it straight in, because yeah, it'll sound okay, but it won't have that punchy rhythm. I think you should try and create your own rhythm, like bump, bum, 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 something like that. The rhythm's really important, as well as like the words that are actually being said. Let's just see what else I did here. I don't know why I've got this little cut here.
I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno.
So yeah, I cut that for a reason. I think it was like too harsh on the tech, so I decided to cut that. So it's like, I got that tech. No, so you kind of missed that big harsh K in the sounds. But that is pretty much it for the chopping. What did I do on the processing? We jump onto the mixer track and see that I have a filter. Don't worry about that for build-ups and stuff. We have Art Acoustic Reverb, which isn't too crazy. What I do nowadays is I bring the EQ cut off down, because I don't like too much of the high-end reverb coming through, because it makes you have to boost up the highs in your lead more, and it's just I think it makes for a cleaner mix when you just bring this to about 6-7K. and all the higher frequencies, let that just be from the main lead itself. So I've routed that to a peak controller. Let's see what the peak controller does.
I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that techno on my, I got that techno.
As you can see, it's pumping quite hard, but also it's letting a lot of reverb through. With a vocal like this, because this vocal is the drop lead, it's the main focus point of this track, it needed a lot of reverb still, so it had that big room feel. Because remember, this isn't like an old school kind of Eurodance track, this is a big room track with that as the influence. Little Older Boy, which I did use but then took off for obvious reasons. That sounds like trash. We look at the EQ, and I'm just boosting frequencies because, again, this is a lead. I needed to have all the frequencies that a lead would have. A vocal usually doesn't have all these crazy boosts, right? We have the Cashmere Essentials, which is a lifesaver.
I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that.
Really tightens everything up, and when you put it after the reverb, it creates a crazy effect on the reverb. The reverb kind of swells a bit, which again was really kind of crucial for this. We've got that again for build up. G-tune, just making sure that it's in the right key because it's a keyless sample, because it's just spoken word. And then we have sidechain, which is super loose.
I got that techno, I got that techno, I got that.
As you can see, if I had it really tight, it would just lose a lot of that pump and that rhythm. So I felt like having a looser one with that would work best, and it really did. I wouldn't have any of the reverb sidechain on that. Usually I go back in the project and think, oh yeah, I could have a little bit tighter. Nah, this one seems perfect. So that is the main aspect of our track. We have a kick drum, which is an old school kick drum. Again, I'm trying to use a lot of the old school sounds to make you think, oh, this is something new in Big Room, even though it's me just ripping off old trance producers. But you know what it is? It sounds fresh, and it's something that the scene needs, I think. So we've got this big kick. Love this kick, a real hard trance kick. Beautiful, man. You really feel this one. I played this track live a lot of times, and it feels really good. So we boosted some of the low frequencies in the kicks. I really wanted it to thump, but with the vocal it sounds great. Because the vocal is sat on top of the kick though, I needed a sharper kick, right? So this is where I brought the top kick. You can hear it every now and again. It's really pushing through underneath that vocal. Because the vocal sat on the kick quite a lot, I need another sharp layer just to really stand out, because the kick has to punch. Our sub bass is a few things. I think the main sub, the deep sub, is from my track with Reslow, the one on Musical Freedom, and it's a super deep bass, really low. And what I've done is I've just volume shaped it with an automation. I just literally created an automation there, and you'll see here it just moves up and down, because I was trying to get the right balance with the kick. See how it just sits nicely there. In addition to that, I added the mid bass layer from my track with Reslow. So it's nice, it's just not quite there. As you'll hear, it has a great energy, but it's not quite there, like sound design wise. So that's where we bring in the main layers. This is acid. You know I love acid by now. I use acid in my tracks a lot. This is a weird sound. I don't know why my brain decides to use certain loops in certain ways, but with that one, all I did was cut that certain sound that I liked and cut the lows from it. And the piece de resistance is this acid sound. Thank you, DJ Alligator, for the inspiration for this one. And let's see if we can just get this sound with no processing on whatsoever, just so you can hear it. Let's check it right now. Pretty flat, right? But when you hear this, it's really crispy, and I went really over the top of the processing. I processed this like I would process a drop lead, because of the gaps that the vocal leads. There was a lot of space for this this bass to come through. This isn't providing any sub bass frequencies whatsoever, so it's just really kind of a mid bass layer. So I really went hardcore on the processing there. If we look at the processing that I've done, I know for a fact there'll be Camel Crusher, of course, Blood Overdrive as well. Really brings it forward in the mix, really pushes it out there. Bit of reverb because again it's not sub bass, so I can get away with reverb. Sue me. Crazy EQ there, and another crazy EQ. But like, how fancy is this? I'm even cutting some frequencies with a little surgical EQ, even in parametric EQ too. What a legend! And I also wanted to make this more narrow. Obviously, it's not a sub bass. However, it is still. You don't want to have it too wide because it's more of a bass layer and it's going to clash with that vocal. The vocal's really center, so I really want to get this even tighter than that. I think if it was wide, it just wouldn't have the same effect, especially in a club. Got Endless Smile for build-ups and stuff, and the sidechain is pretty, not too tight, but it's still not very loose. And altogether, you have the drop idea. And honestly, as soon as I got this vocal, it did not take long because I knew what I wanted to do here. I knew about the acid bass and stuff, and I knew where to find them. Decided to change the bass notes a little bit because it is a very, very repetitive song, and the more movement you can create within this track, whether it's from changing the melodies and changing the keys and stuff, I felt like this was just perfect because I didn't want to keep it all monotone, like the whole way. Like even in big room, you have guys that switch the tone of the kick, boom, 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 this kind of thing. So I wanted to do the same thing because again, this is a big room track dressed up in old school rave clothing. So that was pretty much it. That's literally the drop idea. As always, you need some ear candy stuff. So ear candy wise, we have this really, really nice white noise sound, super clean, and that's really important. I really love clean samples. We have an old school crash, really good with the white noise. Love how it tails off there. We have some other fill stuff as well, hardstyle stuff, old school drop sample. So this stuff, ear candy just makes a track sound more fancy than it actually is, to put it precise. The more advanced the producer, the more crazy their ear candy is, right? That's why you'll hear tracks by, the top guys and you're like, damn, how that sounds crazy, And it's just a little sound. It's kind of irrelevant in the whole drop. Like if you took the sounds out, the drop would still have that same feel, right? But these things are just fancy sound design stuff, which just make you sound more professional than you actually are. So this is a groovy track, right? So I thought it would be stupid not to bring in some hi-hats. So we have a few hi-hat layers. This one I really like because it's really, really different. So that provides just a little bit extra rhythm and extra swing there. We also have these in the second part of the drop. The reason I don't have a clap on the 2 and the 4, because I didn't want to make a house track. This is a more techno influenced track. In techno, they don't tend to have the clap on the 2 and the 4. It's more driving, that style of music, whereas house is very groovy, right? I could have added a clap, but it would have killed the energy. Would have made it more bouncy and more rhythmic, right? But it would have lost the energy. So I decided to just keep it like that. We have extra sounds as well. I like this one, really, really old school, like vinyl sounding hi-hat. So this is about me finding old samples to make this big room track sound like it was made years ago. That's kind of the thing you want to balance with my sound specifically. Old sounds with the new sounds, and kind of they could be made back then but also could be made today, and I think that's a really cool direction. And with this track is one of the most fun tracks to play live. because it has that nostalgic feeling. Even if you weren't around for that kind of music era, it still has that feel. In the fills, we have, of course, drum samples, snares. I lied, they are kicks. They are the techno kicks, which I do in the pre-drop. We'll have a look at that later. So we have those kicks. It's got that rhythm, bump, 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 a bit housey. Cool little fill sample there. Old school drum fill. Sweep, and this sound. That's it. We also have this bass, but this bass goes crazy when I try to play it. It's a sample from Nexus, but and it actually showcases throughout the whole track. You hear it everywhere. Intro, fills, min, breakdown as well. But ever since I upgraded to Nexus 4, this thing has been freaking out because it's a Nexus 2 sound, I think. So it really, really struggles and it just goes crazy. So apologies for that. But that's drop one, man. It's as simple as I described. But trust me, I played this and it works. It really works. It's got great energy. You know, it's got that fast BPM, 142. It's one of the tracks I'm most proud of. In the second drop, we go really old school Ollie James here, because I felt drop one was a little bit too out there. You've got to be careful when you're making a new sound for yourself and trying something new. If you go too far over this side, you will alienate a lot of your fans. I think a lot of my fans still might be a bit not sure about this track. However, when I put the second drop in, I know a lot of you guys will like that, because this is the old school kind of Ollie James sound. Okay, as I said, Nexus is been a bit of a baby recently. So this drop is where we abandon the vocal and we just go fully big room, new school big room with that old school flavor in, basically. And I love this drop melody. The drop lead itself is pretty simple, but I knew I did not need a high sound design level drop lead for this, because I have that acid sound pumping throughout. So I knew I needed quite a simple saw sound. Again, that's also quite old school, because back then these guys didn't have Serum and stuff to play with, so the synths were quite simple. So it was an easy job finding the leads for this. We start with a pluck sound, and this Nexus sound as well. Now I have a bit of mid source going on there with a silent lead. Actually, we'll go through these one by one, because there's more leads than I first anticipated. I think I just kept adding and adding and adding stuff. So we have the pluck and the Nexus sound. This Nexus sound, I think, is Radar. Oh, it's Get Ready, actually. It has that nice kind of detune to it, which kind of sounds weird by itself, but when you have it in the mix, it provides a little bit of... It's kind of moving away from the key slightly, which just makes it sound more like natural. This is probably the main sound. We also have this one where I do some pitch bends. I wanted that smoothness with the lead,